Holy cow. Rick Baker's Metamorphosis book.
It weighs a fuck ton.
Is it good, though?
Oh, yeah, it's incredible. I haven't had a chance to finish going through it because there's just so much.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wow.
Awesome.
It's insane.
Still waiting on mine, but I didn't get in early enough, but I'll get it soon. I'm still waiting on it. Back order.
And then you got to just unplug the phone and send the kids away for a holiday so you can spend time looking at it because it's holy crap. Thank you, Rick.
Imagine.
Thank you, Rick, for doing it.
Yeah, I can't imagine he would do a less than amazing book. One of the things that's good about that too is the amount of podcasts he's done at the moment with the promotion of the book and everything. I guess he's on top of that. I don't know if you've seen that, but he's been on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah, I haven't, and I think he did Mark Maron. Did he?
Yes, he did. Yeah, the WTF. And
have not listened to them yet, but
yeah, he did the Mark Maron one. He did the Joe Rogan podcast, and also Gilbert Gottfried as well, which is not a podcast I listen to a lot. There's been a few on there, like Dennis Muren, I think was on there once. But yeah, so go and check those out because they're awesome. I listened to the Rick Baker one on the drive up to Bolton the other day. That was fun. So that was like 2 hours. It was awesome.
Cool. Wow.
Very cool.
It's on my list.
So what have you been up to? I've been busy.
Yeah, you sure have. You did a few days on the new James Bond picture, and you've been doing Dracula and teaching up in Bolton.
Mm-hmm.
And you're prepping a huge project that you're doing with Neil Morrill that you're going to do at Sean's stand at the Prosthetics event.
Yeah,
right?
We're doing it's a tribute to the Reverend Brown from Coming to America. So. Another Rick Baker connection there, but it's again not a tall I'd up to live to, is it really? But yeah, so I basically did the live cast here, and then I shipped a copy or the mold I shipped to Neil, and I got out a positive, cleaned it up, master molded it while he got the head, and he got a positive out and roughed out the sculpt and blocked in the detail, floated the pieces off, packed them, sent them back to me, and I'm in the process now of making the cores. And then I'll finish off the sculpts, and then when he gets back, we'll run the pieces and stick them on. So, a nice, interesting way of doing things. I've not done it that way before, which is why we wanted to try it. So, yeah, it's cool.
Great. And that prosthetic event's coming up pretty soon.
Yeah. Hey, and I got my new magazine. The Prosthetics magazine came through today with our article in it about the ears. Mine
should be coming, then I should probably get it in the next several days as well, because post over from there to here
takes a little while.
Always takes a little while.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's a good magazine. Some fantastic stuff in it, as always.
Yeah.
There's a really nice article that Neil's done about sculpting an ear as well, which is great. Which is one of those things that scares people, sculpting ears. So that's
ears are cool. Ears are one of my favorite parts of human anatomy because they're nothing but undercuts. Mm-hmm. They're very interesting.
Yeah, they are, which is why I think it was a good thing for us to kind of do in the magazine. I think that's great, actually, that he's done the ear sculpt thing, and it's the same one as the ear mold, because we kind of talk a little bit, about getting rid of the undercuts and how to modify the core to make that doable.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Yeah, I had a couple of teaching spots, and it's interesting because the theme today we're going to talk about, the training and how to start out in a sort of makeup effects and prosthetics career, and it's been, I think it was prompted mainly by a couple of messages on the 911 forum and a few other forums where people are asking about, I want to recommend so-and-so wanted to do this, and where would I put them and everything. And it's interesting. I've been to a few colleges in the last couple of months and universities. And I was at Bolton yesterday. I drove back yesterday from Bolton, and that's a place that's got it pretty fucking good, man. They've worked really hard to make an excellent course, and they're in my head, when you go to a lot of places, you get the privilege of being able to compare and see how things go, and they've really they've got it down right. What's fascinating about that place is that that Rick and Natalie and they're all they just as a team of people, they work really well together, and they're all interested in the subject. And when they're not teaching it, they're still doing it and talking about it, and they make things themselves for themselves, and they still do this stuff, and it really shows. And I think the students are very lucky to get that, but you don't see that everywhere. Do you know what I mean? It's a unique little situation. It makes a huge difference to the quality of the work for the students, and it's nice to be able to see that and compare how it goes. So well done, guys. It was lovely, and thanks again for having me up. It felt very well looked after, and very gracious hosts. They were fantastic.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a discussion last night. The wife of a dear friend of mine. Actually, they're both dear friends. She's a high school teacher, high school ceramics. She's a master ceramicist, but she's head of the art department this term. They kind of rotate stuff around, and she was expressing a little frustration to me that some of her fellow staff members, teachers in the department, art teachers, really don't give a shit.
They're just trying to make it through the week. Yeah, and it's just,
then why are you doing it? It's we've said before that I do what I do because I can't not do it. It's part of my makeup, and it's you just said about the folks up at Bolton always talking about it, thinking about it, and doing things for themselves. It's the nature of, I think, being an artist. And if you're teaching art, you should definitely be passionate about it, not just waiting, paycheck to paycheck. And teaching high school is not a high-paying gig to begin with, so you should certainly be enjoying it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a very curious thing. I mean, like I say, seeing all these different colleges and stuff, I'm trying to think, like Grimsby's the same, Bournemouth the same. The staff there are people that when they're not working, they're doing their own stuff, and they're doing it because they really care about it, because like you say, because they can't not do it. And that enthusiasm spills out onto, what they do in their working day with their students. And it makes such a difference. But the thing is, I've been at colleges, I'm not naming any names, but I've been to colleges where that patently is not the case, and it's either because the person teaching it has been kind of co-opted into it because the faculty thought that, well, you do suntan spraying lotion things, that's kind of like makeup, you can do the media makeup course, and the teacher goes, well, and then I get the calls like, oh shit, I've got to learn how to do this by next month. You know what I mean?
There's also a misconception in the educational field, in academia to begin with, that just because you have a master's degree or a PhD doesn't make you a good teacher.
No.
You may be an expert in the material, you may know a lot of things, but just because you've got the paper to prove you're smart doesn't mean you can convey that information to others in a way that will make the light bulb go on over their head so that they can do the work also. Doesn't just having the degree doesn't guarantee you're going to be a good teacher.
No, it doesn't. Hey, can you hear the fireworks going off in the background? I don't know if you can hear any popping noises going off.
No, I can't.
Oh, it's God bless the PR40 mic, but we're close to November the 5th, so there's going to be probably a week either side of that date where people are popping off fireworks. So if it sounds like Omaha Beach out there, it's not. It's just.
Guy Fawkes Day is not a highly celebrated holiday over here.
No. Well, we like to celebrate acts of terrorism here, so it's it's pretty much what it was. It's a foiled terrorist plot. So basically, because of all that, I think we were chatting about what to talk about, and I think it would be a really good thing to just sort of discuss the training available when people start out with makeup effects careers, and we kind of chat about it. And as far as I can tell, there's three main kind of routes into learning, depending on what you are like as a learner. The first one is an academic or certified qualification level, which is usually a longer term project like a degree or something. Then there's private courses in tuition, where you just pay someone to go to a class or an individual to learn, on a short term basis. And then there's the way that a lot of people do it, which is the self-taught through books like your book and various DVDs and the Stan Winston online course. And those resources are getting, better and more available. And it's an interesting one as to which one is right for who and everything. So what do you say when someone says, oh, my kid's doing this, or you must get those kind of emails all the time? I know I do.
I do. I regularly get emails. Usually it's from a mom about her teenage daughter who's maybe 13 or 14, and the gist of it is, my daughter's really passionate about makeup effects and want to know if we can. I see that you do custom tutorials and private classes and workshops, and want to know if you've got anything coming up. Boom. No information about what they're actually interested in. Have they done any work? What's the kid's name? There's so little information that I get other than, my daughter's passionate about makeup effects, and would you be interested in or available to teach her? And then I got to go back and go, okay, how about some basic information? Starters, though, I think doing private classes with a 13 or 14-year-old girl is off the table for me. I don't know that it's inappropriate, but it is considered inappropriate by many people. I'm probably as old as the kid's grandfather.
But see, I agree. I agree.
Just any sense of just any sense of
impropriety. It's a weird thing that they don't.
You want to try to avoid stuff like that. And if mom, you want to come sit for 2 hours at a pop and read a magazine while I teach your kid how to sculpt, or whatever it is, we're gonna try to figure out if your kid's got talent or not. You're more than welcome to come sit in, but you don't plan on coming and dropping your kid off.
No,
at the
I feel the
shop.
same, because I've got two boys. I've got two kids, a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old, and it wouldn't be my first thought to just call someone up I'd never met and just dump them off with a complete stranger. That is a strange thing, and that's a parental responsibility. That when someone says that, it is a little bit like, okay, that's weird.
I'm thrilled that they are confident enough that they could do that. But that's just not the world we live in. Yeah, they could, because I'm a nice guy, but it's the world is the world. You don't have to be the one to explain
to them. Well, I won't. I also don't think you should offer that up. That's for your own safety. That's weird. But the with regards to the training aspect of it, I think the thing is, I want so much for people who express an interest in it to definitely pursue it. I'm not interested in destroying dreams or scuppering any ambition. It's more a case of, it's a very easy thing to just say, I want to do it because it looks cool. But that's the analogy I've used very often, and I'm sure people who've listened to this podcast before will remember it, but it's like going to a restaurant, having a delicious meal, and on the basis of how nice that meal was and how much you enjoyed it, you've decided you're going to become a chef. And then without any idea about what involved, running a kitchen involves. And it's just the kind of thing where, like,
right,
as you know, if you've watched any of the Gordon Ramsay type programs, it's like, working in a kitchen is nothing like having a nice meal. And there's nothing wrong with using that as a springboard, but if you want to educate yourself, or as you say more often, it's more about telling the parents to be aware of this, is that you kind of have a responsibility to know. Obviously, you learn and practice and do things. We'll talk about those things. There are things you can do to get better at it. But also, I think if you're serious about pursuing it as a career, you really have a duty to understand better how the industry works and what the industry needs from you if you're going to offer yourself up to it.
Right. Well, it's not going to happen by osmosis. You can't put my book under your pillow when you go to bed at night and expect to wake up in the morning understanding how to make a collapsible core mold. Doesn't
which was like, I need another one. I drooled on it, so can I have another one? But it's weird. But that's the thing. It's like, but there aren't the voices that are speaking the loudest to people who want to learn are mostly institutions who want their students to come and spend money there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
And I've taught at one of those institutions where their mantra was, essentially, if you can pony up the dough, welcome to the club. They couldn't care less whether you actually have talent or not. If you are able to, you could even have an extra chromosome. They don't care if you can pony up the dough. You're in. I've had students who never had a prayer of answering telephones at an animation studio in the program, taking valuable time away from students who had a real shot at a good career in the industry because their parents could afford to pay the tuition. I've had animation students, and I think it applies to makeup, animation, visual effects, pretty much any of these things. I've had animation students answer the question, why do you want to be an animator? It's because they like watching cartoons. It's akin to, I like to eat good food, so I'm going to become a chef.
Well, you can look into what a chef is, but you really should, get a thorough understanding of it. And there are, Well, we'll go through it sort of systematically, but I think one of the things with any kind of training, anything you want to do, any career path, if you say, I want to be a carpenter, I want to be a writer, I want to be a photographer, anything, I think the question you have to ask yourself is, if you're going to make a living wage at this, and there is a distinction between making a living wage in supplemental income or just doing it as a hobby. If you're going to make a living wage out of it, the question you have to be able to ask is, that people pay to have their problems solved. So the question is, whose problems do you solve? That's the question you have to be able to answer. If you don't know whose problems you're going to solve, if you don't know what your client looks like, then you can't really do this as a business, because you need to understand that quite well in order to be of use to them. And it takes a long time, I think, to kind of understand the landscape, and it is changing. What TV producers and film, TV, those kind of jobs are different to theatre. They're kind of different from private clients. There's all kinds of weird, intricacies.
Well, there's so many different hats you can wear too in the industry. Just, do you want to be a sculptor? Is that what you're interested in, sculpting? Or do you want to apply the makeup that somebody else has sculpted and somebody else has molded and somebody else has cast and painted? Do you want to just apply it? Or do you want to have a hand in creating it as well? And you need to be pretty clear with yourself about that, because each of those skills takes a significant amount of effort and practice to get good at. And I've been doing this stuff for 20 some years. I've been working in film and television for over 40, and I'm still learning. There's tons of
knowing
stuff
that you
I
don't know that stuff. It kind of keeps you grounded, doesn't it? That kind of humble. It's a balance between being confident,
one would hope,
to say yes to things and do them well, but humble enough to also know, these things don't just happen, and you have to apply yourself. I do like analogies. Another analogy I use is, it's really easy to crash a plane. Like, any landing can be scuppered if you really want to, but the vast majority of landings, are not tragic, because everything is doing what it's supposed to do. But that's not the natural state of things. That's the result of everyone doing the things they're supposed to do and applying themselves. And when you do that regularly, it kind of has the illusion that that's just the natural state of things, and it isn't natural at all. It's the result of a lot of effort and work. And the plane that didn't crash is most of them, and it's also the result of everyone, the engineers doing their job, the pilots doing their job. Everyone's doing the job, and also a dose of good luck. So you have to constantly be vigilant about things, and that's certainly the case with makeup. You've got.
Yeah, well, it's all a matter of degree. The Navy SEALs motto is, "The only easy day was yesterday."
Quite right.
And that you can apply that to pretty much anything. It's how badly do you want to be good at something? Are you willing to put in long hours to get that sculpture just right, or are you gonna just chuck it in and go play an online multiplayer video game because you're a little frustrated, and you'll try it again tomorrow.
I mean, it's a weird.
After that.
There are certainly. I think when you're younger, I think it's quite reasonable that you wouldn't know exactly what you want to do because it takes a while to learn all these things. And I know I didn't really understand this stuff when I was 15. So I think the thing when someone comes to you and says, "Oh, what can I do to sort of position myself for that?" I think I've decided I like this as a career option. What can I do? The things I always say are, at this stage, I wouldn't sink a bunch of money into training specifically. What I would say is you want to get your transferable skills up. So regardless of the technology, things like life drawing, sculpting, painting, photography, and maybe if you want to try digital stuff, so you could try like it's free. You could try Sculptress, and try and get those things up. I think life drawing, is one of the most important things that you can do because it's transferable. It educates your brain as to how to draw what the human body looks like. And once you've kind of got those lessons in your head and you have an appreciation and understanding of things like anatomy and posture and gesture and all those kind of things, that's utterly transferable to makeup later on. And that would be a much better use of the time, I think, early on, rather than getting, knee deep in makeup and then, a couple of years later going, actually, I think I want to be something else. It's, those transferable skills are useful anyway for everything.
No,
so
absolutely.
I would say those are that would be the starting point when you're that young. I would say, don't go to a makeup course that age. Get better at drawing, and I can't draw from memory. I'm not suggesting come up with things, but feed the brain with information, and life drawing is, even if it's not naked people. If you've got like a 13-year-old want to do it, it may not be appropriate to send them off to a life drawing class, but they can draw, take classes and draw family members or pets or heads, hands, feet, but draw realistic things.
Draw what you see. I used to tell my animation students to always I keep little knit notebooks with me, just even the size of 3x5 cards that you can, if you're sitting and watching TV one night when your show goes to commercial, just pull out your sketchbook and draw something in the room. Whenever you've got some downtime. And
also, I think it's kind of difficult if you haven't got
your
someone
skills
sort of
a little bit more,
making you accountable for those things. But I think it is true that if you are somebody that enjoys drawing and is nourished and you have fun doing it, those tend to be the people that get good at it and do it for a career because they do it. They're not looking for ways to avoid doing it. They're looking for ways to do it all the time and do it more, and they naturally become better at it because they're doing it a lot and because they enjoy it. So if you're not enjoying it, that's a good indication.
No, I have some students that I have some former students that I follow on Instagram, and they're frequently posting morning warm-up sketches before getting on with their day, and I'm going, Jesus Christ, your warm-up sketch is better than an illustration I've been working on for a month. 30 minutes speed, 30 minutes speed painting, and it's like, good on you. Yeah. This is great stuff. It's because they do it all the time. It's about getting past the impatience of not being good quickly enough. It's the adage that it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at something is, pay attention. It's going to take more than a couple of hours to become. Yeah,
I think that's true.
Good at drawing. If
the thing about that 10,000 hours thing is it can sound daunting, but the thing is, unless you plan on expiring tomorrow, you're going to be here for the next 10,000 hours, right? So you may as well spend those 10,000 hours doing something you enjoy. Now, if drawing doesn't make you happy and isn't something you enjoy, well, there's an answer. It's kind of the wrong thing to do. It definitely is the case that the thing you're doing should be nourishing, should be enjoyable, and the amount of people I know who do it professionally were doing it for fun, and they loved it. They enjoyed doing it. So I think just the very act of enjoying doing it. And it is always funny when people say they really want to do it, but they haven't actually done it. It's like, well, that's like saying something's funny without actually laughing. It's like that bypasses your ability to edit that. If you say you love something, you'll have fucking done it.
Yeah. So it's don't do something
Yeah.
because you think it's easy to do. Don't let that be your motivation. Don't do something because you think you can make money doing it. Money should not be the motivator. How easy something is to master.
Yeah, that's always a bit
should
of a
not
telltale
be the
question. Isn't it?
motivator.
Like, one of the first questions someone might ask you is, how much do you earn? Because that's, apart from being a kind of an impolite question, it's also very indicative of wrong motivations in a way. I mean, I can understand someone being curious in the same way that if you're going on a date, you might be interested to know how much somebody earns. But if it's the first thing you ask, you're like, "Oh, can I see your ass?" You know what I mean? It's like that wouldn't be that's not conducive to a good relationship. That's not what you fucking open with. So, it might be that, yeah, I'm sure if a guy goes on a date, he's going to want to see that, but you wouldn't necessarily say that, because that's not good. And it reveals something about your motivations, that are more telling. So it's weird when people ask that question, even though that is a fair point. Something that I don't think a lot of people think about when they want to go into training. One of the first assumptions I think people make is that they need to go to a formal college for training, and I don't. There are fantastic courses. There are some very good universities, and there are some excellent qualifications that can be gotten from them. But I don't think it's always necessary to just get a degree. And a lot of people just think, because it's the first thing they think of is, oh, you want to do that, get a degree in it. It's like, a natural kind of assumption. But I think it's worth talking a little bit about the way colleges are funded and how they take people on, because I think that's a very important part of whether or not a place is good or not to train at. Because you can see somewhere, and I know places that are doing like very high-end degrees that I wouldn't wipe my ass with, frankly, because I know how those places are run. And no, you know what I mean? There are some places that are, frankly, shameful, and they have a high turnover of staff, and they burn people out, and that's a good sign of how bad that is.
And my whole feeling about degrees has changed over the years, as my whole career path has weaved in and out of different little eddies of the industry. I think it's great to do a 4-year degree if you can, and if you can afford it. Because it certainly shows that you're capable of taking something from start to finish. But in the arts, I don't know that that's as important as, say, it might be in investment banking. My requirements for somebody to work with is, can you do the work? I don't really care where you went to school, as long as you understand the needs of the project and can deliver it. And that's one of the things that Steve Wang told me a while back, because he would get these requests for internships and so on, and I get a lot of those as well. People say, "Yeah, I'll come in and work for nothing and help you and do whatever I can." It's like, okay, well, that's all well and good, and I appreciate the enthusiasm, but your enthusiasm is not going to be very helpful to me unless you already know how to do the stuff that I need to have done. So Steve would see if somebody could follow through with a task and say, "Okay, I need you to do this way," and explain it, and then he's gone and they have some questions in his absence, such as, and they decide to do it a different way than what he told them, because they thought it would be faster and cheaper, and not following instructions. It's like basically disobeying an order, because he told you to do it a certain way, because you don't know what's going to be the next step in his process, and doing something out of pottery plaster instead of ultracal may have been cheaper and quicker, but it's not going to give you the same results, because the material hardnesses and properties. So, following instructions is an important thing, and just being able to follow through.
I think a lot of people that listen to this
is really important.
You get a lot in the States and the UK and Australia, but if there's other people listening in parts of the world, you can, get in touch with us and tell us how things are there. But when I've taught in places like Germany, for example, and lots of places of Europe, the arts are taken quite seriously as a subject, and they will provide free education. It's paid for by the state in a lot of places, and I'm talking about like master's degrees, and MAs and BAs and things. But the requirement to get in, because it's free, because it's paid for, is that you have to be really good. So they have a very extensive interview process, which can last several days, and you go in with a bunch of other people, and you have tasks, and you are assessed on those outcomes of those tasks. And then, if you meet the grade, you may be offered a place, and then obviously you've got to keep up your end of the bargain and do that kind of thing. And so, therefore, the very nature of that process means that the people who are good and enthusiastic will be largely the ones who are chosen. So it improves the quality of the people there. The point I'm trying to make is you really do need to look at the way the college is funded, because just because some place offers a degree does not mean it's going to be a valuable qualification, because I think it's perfectly feasible to be qualified but useless. You can have a degree has kind of qualified you, but actually they have to, because if a tutor fails a student, they are put under pressure to explain. Over here, certainly, they're put under a lot of pressure to explain why. And if someone leaves, for example, there often is a lot of questions of why we need to retain the students. Because if people walk out, then it's like, it's like losing, funding. So they have to kind of fight for it. So their motivations for keeping and passing people is almost a poisoned way of doing it. Or it can be in some places.
Oh, sure, and of course
I worry about that. I really think it's worth looking into and speaking to current students and ex-students if you're going to look at a place and try and get a fuller picture, because the faculty itself is only going to present the best possible scenario, and I'm not necessarily saying they'll give you the full picture. There are places, most places, to be honest, are not like that, but I have definitely been in places where I came away thinking, it's not a scam, but it fucking smells like one. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, well, we have over here, we've got these for-profit institutions where education is pretty far down the list of priorities, where making money for stockholders is the primary motivation. And, you've got a classroom with seating for 24 students, and they'll put 35 people in the class. And then when students drop out because
overpromised,
there are too many students in the class and they're not getting the attention that they feel they deserve, well, then it's the faculty members' fault, because they're not doing their job, even though the class has been overcrowded.
Maybe they've got problems. They may have home problems and things going on at home that are understandable, but when it's a significant percentage, and it's often, and it's always the same ones, you have to question whether or not they should be there in the first place, because there's somebody somewhere that would love to do that course, who's not there for whatever reason, because they couldn't pony up the dough, or they don't live near it, or whatever, or they've got commitments, who are not going to do that course, and yet this fucking idiot that can't be asked turning up. And again, that's not everyone, but there are definitely people there, and it's frustrating. And I'm just thinking, if you're going to send your kid to a college, please
it's
be
a
aware
bell curve.
That these things exist. That there are places that seem like they're fine, but I'm just saying, look into it. Because the other thing is as well, and it's kind of unkind to say, but I'm going to say it anyway, is you've got to consider who's moderating and assessing the entrance. What's their motivations? Is it money, or is it pressure from the faculty, or is it that they've got a standard and a reputation they're trying to maintain? A lot of the good colleges will turn people down because they're not good enough to come in, and that's a very harsh thing to hear, but that's how they continually produce good graduates. That if you're an employer and you want to hire someone, you need to know that the place you're getting them from, or if they have a degree from a certain place, that fucking means something. And that requires people to say no to some people, just like anything. If you as a person, you have to discriminate about who you let into your life, who you give your bank account details to. You have to be, you make decisions based on information that you know or assume. And it's the same with colleges. You have to present yourself. And there have been, again, it's kind of a different one, but like remember teaching, and I'm only saying this because I was genuinely amazed that this was the thing. It didn't even occur to me. When I did my degree, I had to, you had to have a minimum qualification. You had to have a certain amount of grades of a certain percentage above, and you had to have this in order to be allowed in, and including maths and English, you had to have those things. That was, if you didn't have those things,
Sure.
you were not applying. It was as simple as that. Was the minimum entry requirement. So that everyone that went to my course, could read, for example. And yet I have been on courses where, I did a course where it was like 2 or 3 days, and I think on like the second day, 3 or 4 people hadn't turned up half the day. And I was saying, where have they gone? And they go, they're doing their English GCSEs, like their basic exams. It's like, so it's kind of cool that the college is making them do this to get their qualification, which is fine. But it came at the cost of the 2 days that I was there. They lost half that training that presumably I was brought in to do. And it's just like, oh shit, I didn't realise. I mean, in one way, that's really cool that they're training them up to be able to get their basic qualification. But at the same time, I just thought that was standard. It's like, but that's maybe the state of the world now. I don't know. But it's just, there's definitely been like a lowering of entry. There's a lower barrier to entry, it seems. And I'm not entirely sure it's for the better, really, because it just seems like there have been some colleges where it's like a fucking remand centre. It's like a zoo. It's just like, do you know what I mean? That you're dealing with so many things that it's getting in the way of what the 3 or 4 people that really care about it are actually there to do. And I'm sure, tell me if I'm wrong. If you've been on a makeup course, did you find there were people there that, frankly, everyone's life would be better if they weren't there? Or they presumably are getting a lot out of it, so why are they there? I think if you wanted to do like law or medicine, for example, you're unlikely to choose that because you want an easy ride. But there are a percentage, definitely, whenever I've been on a course like that, where it's people who think, well, I wear makeup, so how hard can it be? So my dad said, I've got to do something or I'm getting kicked out of the house. I'm 18, I need to find a job, so I'll just do what I think sounds easy. So, in any given call, any given group of 25 people, there's maybe 2 or 3 in there that are there because it sounded like an easy option. And you don't tend to get that, I wouldn't have thought, with law or medicine. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like there needs to be a street, and it's
I think you'll find kind of a bell curve throughout, whether it's law or medicine.
I think what I'm trying to point out is that if you're going to put your kid through an education system, maybe no one's told you this. I'm just saying you get slackers there, believe it or not, and they may, because of behavioural issues or because of whatever, they could take up a disproportionate amount of that tutor's time, which means they actually get less of the education than you thought you would for things that you weren't expecting. So it's just worth looking at those things before committing to it, because you might be surprised how much you don't get out of it. Depends where you go.
It doesn't matter what it is that you're trying to. Anything worth doing is worth doing well. Shoot for. Maybe you're not going to be the best at it, but try. Yeah.
So
I feel
wary.
better. All that weight off.
Yeah, we had you had that show Face Off, which was on, right? We had one over here in the UK called Glow Up, and a lot of people who were interested in makeup understandably watched it. I did watch one or two. No, I think I watched all of them, actually. I think I made myself do it. And there was a bit in it where basically what they did was they hired YouTube makeup artists and influencers who have huge followings to sort of compete and learn and do all this kind of stuff. And some of the stuff they did was really, really nice. But my beef is not with the people who were on the show at all. My beef is with the producers of that show, because the point of that show, so far as I can tell, was to just basically put people in situations to make them feel terrible. And then basically, like when one dude tried to stick on a pair of ears and it went wrong, the guy with the camera was almost falling over himself to follow him as he ran out to cry. It was just like, this was good stuff. And it was because he was trying to dissolve the edges of the piece using Talasys thinner instead of acetone. And it's like, well, clearly that's because they haven't been shown how to do this. So how dare you make a program where you deliberately withhold the correct information in order to make these poor fuckers look like idiots so that they break down because it makes for good TV. That's my problem with those programs. It's got fuck all to do with makeup. It's just a game show and an emotion thing. they did do some cool makeup stuff in there, definitely, but no one explained how the pieces were made, because they were all just on shelves, ready for them to pick. No one went into any of that stuff. It was all about the drama of how it feels to fail. It's the same old thing, and it's like, and my problem with it is when I get, I go on a course and there's an 18-year-old, sometimes that's their only exposure to it, and they want that, and they want to do the things they've seen on Instagram, and they've never fucking heard of Dick Smith or Rick Baker. And it tears me a new one. I'm like, I can't believe that's your reason for doing this, because you have to understand. And maybe I'm coming at it from an old-fashioned way. Maybe in 20, 30 years from now, none of that shit will matter and it'll be about Coke cans in the face. I don't know. But it just seems like you have to understand that the people that do this care about it so much. And it really frustrated me. And I know they got in touch with a lot of people in the industry to ask about what they should focus on. And they gave them good information, and they were like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to make people cry and video that, and then have Stacey Dooley fucking coin the phrase MUA. Like, I've never called somebody an MUA. They're a makeup artist. It doesn't take that long. I think it takes longer to say MUA than it does makeup artist. It's just like, they're just trying to kind of make it a thing, and I feel like something I care about deeply has been hijacked in order to make something, and it really frustrates me.
I share your frustration, and I think Face Off was a good news and bad news about Face Off. The good news was that it really brought what we do out in the open and accessible to a lot more people. Of what goes into creating characters for film and television.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's reality television. There's nothing real about it. You don't see the team of lab monkeys in the background who are working overnight to fix somebody's mold and run their foam and bake out the molds beforehand and basically artificially compress time so that you see these crazy character makeups that wind up becoming costume pieces as well, because somebody's got to fabricate these costumes. It's not just about the makeup. And boom, there it is. It's in 24 hours they've got this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I've gotten phone calls from producers wanting like a full body suit. They'll call me on a Thursday and they need it. They want it on Monday.
Yeah.
But they've only got $600.
And there'll be somebody that will say yes to that somewhere. More power to them. You enjoy your next 4 shitty days of life. But I want to keep doing this. I don't want to break myself against every fucking rock you come up with. Your lack of planning is not my problem. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Horrific. There was a really interesting thing about Rick Baker mentioned it and it happens to him. You know what I mean? Or it did happen to him. I think he was working on. They were doing some reshoots. I think for something. I think it was the Wolfman, and they needed this makeup doing again, and they gave him, he said this in the Joe Rogan podcast, he said they gave him I think he had to land and then go from the airport straight to the makeup trailer to do this makeup, and they didn't film on it and everything, and it was like, how, they needed some makeups doing, and he had 3 weeks or something, and he said if you called me the week before it would have been fine, but now everyone's busy, there's no crew available, and anyway we couldn't get it done in 3 weeks. You'd have to build the sets. He was saying you've got to probably finish the sets. He goes, oh no, we started those 3 months ago. It's like, so you knew 3 months ago you were going to film this, but you didn't fucking tell me. And they're pulling that shit with someone like him.
Oh yeah, no, it's
do you know what I mean? This stuff happens a lot, and just because they didn't fucking do it doesn't mean you have to do it.
On makeup heavy shows, I've heard stories like this from Tammy Lane and others, where it's by the time they get to thinking about, we should really think about getting the makeup for this show taken care of. So, it's only the entire look of the film is the makeup.
Yeah.
And by the time they start thinking about it, they've already spent all their money on production design and art direction and hiring A-list actors and all of this other stuff, and makeup is the last consideration, even though it's the first thing anybody's going to see.
Yep.
And then, well, all the money's gone, so
tough luck.
here's what you get to work with.
It's crazy, and it's sad. Sad.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. What was I going to say? I had another point that was less stress, but like I say, my beef isn't with the people on it, because I know a few of them. You know, that I've been in touch and been around a couple of them, and from Face Off, and they're really good, and they work hard, and they're lovely people, and it's awesome. It's more, I feel that they just, the show is predicated on the wrong things, and when the subject is about something that you care deeply about, it cheapens it for me, and I want to have a bath afterwards. I don't like how it cheapens it. And when I've been to makeup schools and colleges that think that is the way, and I have to sort of break it to them that no, it's this stuff, and I try and make them get enthusiastic about the classic makeup designers and all that kind of, it's just, there's so much more to it than that. It's the real deal is more interesting than this, and I want you to know that. And it's it's disheartening in a way when it's just zipper faces and coke cans in the eye, and that's their idea of the best that a makeup can be, because that's all they've been exposed to, and you want to show them the Exorcist stuff. And
well, the comments that I get most from just regular viewers of Face Off is the stuff that they really want to see is the stuff that they never talk about or show on the program. They don't care about the drama and the histrionics of the relationships of the people. They want to know how you run the pieces, how you mix up the foam components, how you do. They want to know all about the lab stuff.
Yeah,
the rest of that stuff is frivolous.
Yeah, well,
to them,
this is the thing. I mean, all of this might sound just impotent whinging, but it's more to make people aware. This is specifically for people who are, if you've got a friend who's, their daughter wants to go into this, and that they're in this position, then please just forward them. This is what this is all about. Is to trying to kind of throw a bit of light on that. But it's also the case that the way you combat that is to come, you provide information that does give the lab side of things, that does show you how stuff is done, which is why we have this fucking pop-up. It's called Battles with Bits of Rubber, precisely because it's about the difficult things involved in creating bits of rubber. It's why we produce the videos. It's why we write for the magazine. So we're trying to kind of push back against that by giving that information. And at the prosthetics event, I'm probably going to meet a lot of people who are like, thank God, they want to talk about stuff, and they want to talk about the mechanism of how stuff is done and the technical aspect of it. That's the shit I want to hear, not what's your favourite colour, how much do you earn, who's your favourite actor, you know what I mean, those kinds of things. That's just squandering of the time. It's just infuriating. It's really annoying, it's just, so there are definitely enough people out there that do it. And I'm just saying, if you've got someone, a family member or someone who's I want to do this, or someone's daughter or son or whatever wants to get into this and they're young, whatever, make them aware of things like Prosthetics magazine. Make them go on YouTube and watch even the free stuff. There's loads of little free clips from the Stan Winston characters at arts school, and there's really, really good stuff out there. Please don't just be looking at endless fucking low crop tops pouting at the camera with a pencil in the nose. It's just not, it just annoys me. That those kinds of things. Did you see there was a makeup video? It came out. They always crop out just before Halloween, and it was this little sort of cute girl, and she was painting Elmer's glue in her face, and then cutting it with scissors in the cheeks, and just trying to. And it was all stuff that was fair enough. It was. They weren't, when you can't afford stuff, you do, mess around with little things. But it was just, there were so many dangerous things, like putting blades in the skin and running the scissors on the cheek and all that kind of stuff. It was just all really bad practice, and there was no mention of don't hurt yourself by doing this, or take this precaution, or use blunted scissors. Or it also seemed to be about getting hits. And you watch those videos and you see they've had 4 or 5 million views or whatever.
Yeah, there's no warning label on these videos for people who are trying to learn and don't know enough yet to discern between the crap and the cream.
No, but it's the kind of stuff. The reason it gets that many views is because it's kind of shareable, and I guess the people watching it are seeing people like them. They're young and whatever, and so they kind of become more popular. But Kate Benton has done some really nice ones from little tutorials that they put out there, and those kinds of videos are great and informative, but they don't get anything like the views. And it's quite a common theme, isn't it, that you get these kind of influencers and everything with millions of views, and then like the professionals that do it for a living that might put out a video, although obviously understandably they have less of a web presence because they're too busy actually working on things that they can't fucking show people stuff, but they tend to get far fewer views. But I can understand this may sound like a whinge moan, but we're moaning by producing content going the other way, so we're doing our bit. But I'm just saying, be aware that there is a whole other world out there that doesn't look like that. And I would encourage you, if you're serious about doing it, to not accept that as, how things are done, because that's just a confection. It's a confectionery version of something.
Mm-hmm.
Moan, whinge, privileged white man, meh.
That's us, privileged white man.
But so look at those people and the good videos out there. I guess we should do a list of maybe tutorials.
Kiana Jones has some great videos on her YouTube channel.
Now she's an example of someone who's probably closer to the demographic, because when they see like a grizzled old fucking bald bloke with a white beard, it's they're not interested in seeing that. So I can understand how that's not going to appeal to more people. But she's a very good example of someone who has worked her way through it, has worked in studios and consistently applied herself and done really good things and made really fucking good videos, because that's the other thing. It's like making good videos. The sound's good and they're shot right and edited correctly and all that kind of stuff. She put a lot of effort into those things. So, yeah, that's a good example of... Because I saw, actually... It was the day before Halloween, and it was a list of the top 10 people you should be following on YouTube for makeup tutorials. And I think hers was the only one was I would agree with. All these other ones were like, and again, I'm not going to name them and moan about them, but there were a bunch of people. I'm like, they're fucking. It's fun. It is fun stuff, but it's just the absence of some of the other people I know that have YouTube channels that do really good stuff wasn't on there because they just don't get the numbers. And it's just that thing of just because they haven't got millions of viewers doesn't mean they're not really good, I'll shut up now. Now you talk.
Well, we've talked about this very thing on more than one occasion, and I don't know if we need to rehash it, but it's something that people just need to be aware of. A lot of the stuff that you see on the YouTube, the sliced wax fingers, some of the stuff looks really cool, admittedly, but it's made with materials that are only going to hold up for still photography, not going to be functional for movement on set throughout a whole days of filming.
Yeah, I mean, there is a distinction to be made, certainly, for people that are doing this stuff for fun and have no intention of doing this professionally. And I would imagine they far outnumber the people that do want to do it professionally. But that's my area of interest is the sort of professional stuff and trying to approach it that way. That's what I know, so that's just how I kind of look at it. But one thing I will mention is I wrote a blog post in 2011 and it was called "What's the Best Way to Learn Makeup Effects?" I'll put a link to that in these show notes because that goes into a lot more detail, the kinds of things, and things have changed, I guess, over the time, because that was 8 years ago. But one of the things,
it's a good one.
Thanks, man. One of the things in it that I thought was very interesting, it came about because I was chatting to some makeup artists, shortly before then about it. And one of the things that came up that was interesting was that, years ago, if you did this for a living, if you were an apprentice or if you could get an apprenticeship, bearing in mind there were far fewer people looking to do this then. It wasn't as popular as it is now. If you wanted to be an apprentice and you were taken on as apprentice, you had a job. And that meant that you were getting paid, perhaps not a massive wage, but you were being taken on, you were being shown, you were being trained, you had a commitment to the job. And so you were learning while you were working. And then if you if you didn't pull your weight, if you weren't good enough, if you turned up late, if you were, rude or whatever, you would lose that job. It was a privilege to have it, and it could be withdrawn from you. So the power resided with the people you were working for, which is right and proper. When you start a course, you're pretty much a customer. So you've paid in advance for something. So now the power is actually on you. You have sort of consumer rights. You have there's recourse to be had if you don't feel that you've gotten what you deserve, and it completely shifts the balance. And the problem I have with that just means that I think it doesn't necessarily mean that standards have lowered, but it does mean not everyone that qualifies is good enough. Whereas I think if you passed your way through an apprenticeship, by definition you were good. You had to be, otherwise you wouldn't be there, because people who were better than you decided whether or not you could stay. So if you have a place where the college has to pass a bunch of people every year in order to keep growing, that does call into question, well, they can't all be great. So who's where's the quality control, and what is the quality control? What qualifies as good and bad? So it is an interesting conundrum, and I don't quite know how that works. But I'm just saying, don't assume that it's all good just because it says so on the website. Look into it yourself and speak to people that have done it, because you may find a lot of people that go, oh Christ, no, I wouldn't go there if you paid me.
Yeah. There was I have a poster from the School of Visual Arts in New York, which is where I was gonna do one of the places I was considering for grad school, and it's Pagliacci Clown. It's a gorgeous poster, and the headline on it is, "To be good is not enough when you dream of being great."
Mm-hmm. Well,
and I always like that.
Yeah. It's interesting. You say you dream of being great, but I have been, admittedly, not many, but I've been to a couple of colleges where that's where I learned that not everybody actually has aspirations. There's an actual aspiration deficit, which I found quite shocking and upsetting, that there are, people who don't want anything for themselves. It never occurred to them to dream at all, and I've never not thought that, so that was quite jarring to me. But I guess that's me, being shaken out my little comfortable shell.
You were raised right,
I guess, but not everyone had the same opportunities. But I don't know, I'm just saying, if you want to be really good at stuff, you can do it, but just be careful about where you learn and what you learn. And I think that's a part of the thing. I think that's why I get bummed out about people that say, oh, I love this, or I love that, and you see what it is they're loving, and you go, well, I can't judge you for not loving that, but do you also love Dick Smith stuff and Rick Baker stuff, and do you know about Lon Chaney and the Westmores and all that? And if they like Draw a Blank, have never heard of any of that, that's when I get anxious about it, because I'm like, oh, but you should know about these things, and the people that you are hoping to work for fucking know about them. So
yeah, absolutely.
How does that work? Anyway, I'm going to stop moaning. I think I should stop now.
Okay.
Let's talk about good things. Excuse me. I
like talking about good things.
Try to cough there. I bought a couple of 3D printers in the last month. I think I showed you. I bought an Ender 3 Pro, which is basically like a smaller CR10.
Yeah.
It's really nice. I love it, because a lot of the things I print are quite small, and it's funky as hell. And I also bought, on the recommendation of Richard Martin, I bought an Anycubic Photon S. Well, he has an Anycubic Photon, which is like a little... It's not SLA, it's kind of...
Is that the resin?
It's a resin printer, but instead of using lasers, it uses an LCD screen. I think, maybe they all use LCD screens, I don't know. I thought some use lasers, but it's a little, it uses a screen, and then, with a resin, and you print. And it's actually pretty quick. And it's only a very small print bed. It's probably the size of a postcard, but it's it's pretty sweet. So I've been enjoying that. There was one day a couple of weeks ago where I had all three running at once. It was awesome. I got on with some accounts, so it was cool.
Yeah.
But I'm having a great time with that, and I have to say I'm enjoying Fusion 360. I've really gotten into that since I've started figuring out.
Fusion 360 is pretty sweet software.
Because I had some really cool ideas for some mold corners. When you make a mold of things and you do them in clay and then you plaster bandage and whatever. I kind of thought, I've got all these sculpts on these boards. Why don't I just make like right-angled brackets that go in the corners, and then I'll put like a rebate in them to accommodate the planks of wood that I have. And I have some furniture board that's like 6 inches wide and it's about 3/4 inch thick with melamine face on it. I could chop those up into planks that are the right size and then just make a bunch of these corners, and then I could reuse them. So I wouldn't have to make. So I made them, and they worked like a charm, and it was brilliant. And I just did them on Fusion 360. It took maybe half an hour to model them up, threw them on the printer. Next morning, they were just done. And it's just like, fuck, I love this. And the better you get at it, the more you can. I'm trying to find things now. I'm like, ooh, I could do with that, and I'll make a little widget and print it, and it's brilliant. I love it. I made some key molds today. I wanted some keys, so I modeled up some keys. I'll stick it on the thing. I don't know if we can. I guess you can just throw that. Maybe I'll throw it on. What's that website, Thingiverse, where you can throw your models up there?
Yeah.
It's just like a little tray with like 10 molds on them, but they've got all the little recesses and slight undercuts that are rounded that you'd want to help retain a key in the socket. And I had a great time doing that. So yeah, I'm on a bit of a CAD fix at the moment.
Cool. Yeah, I've been doing some stuff, some little modular, like paint bottle holders and dram cup holder modifications, and throwing that up on the printer, and bam, next morning it's done. Looks great, and it's mold that up, pour it in resin or pour it up in silicone. It's got for brush holders, and pretty nice.
Yeah,
pretty sweet little bits.
I love it. I love finding things that I can do with it that are going to make my life easier.
With you talking about the mold kit, I just had an idea for because I when I'm doing some my little block molds, I'll use foam core. Yeah. And I'll hot glue stuff. I just thought of you having these nice little corners. Yeah. Right angle corners that you can that'll slide that 1/4 inch foam core right down into it, and make it so much easier to whip something up. Yeah. And they're just fun to do as well. That's the other thing. It's just really fun just to make these things up, and you can try them out. I love it. It's so much fun. I didn't think I would enjoy CAD as much as I'm enjoying it, I have to say. I thought I'd all be about ZBrush. Fusion 360 is a robust program. Autodesk has for hobbyists, as long as you're not doing something commercial with it, it's free, and it's the full program. It's they're not holding anything back. Yeah. And there's some great videos on YouTube to help figure stuff out, but the forum pages on the Autodesk website are really good, and it's got a pretty good learning curve. Yeah. So if you guys are interested in learning CAD and playing with 3D printing, Fusion 360 is the shit. It's amazing. And also it's kind of like the 3D printing community. It's a very generous community around it. It's like, if you want to know anything about 3D printing, it's not hard to find the answers once you know how to articulate your question. Mm-hmm. And there's a few really, really good people doing tutorials on Fusion 360 that are just, I'm sure they're the same for all those programs, but because Fusion 360 is so thorough and it's free, it's like, holy shit, it's just amazing. And I'm not doing like mechanical things that mesh together. I'm not like doing interlocking pistons on an aircraft engine or something. I'm just trying to make shapes. So it's well within the wheelhouse to learn that. And that's just me, and I'm a Luddite, and I'm surprised in the past 6 months what I'm capable of doing now. And every day I try it. I've experimented a bit with doing some organic shapes, but you can get some pretty interesting stuff going on. And, you can loft things, so you can have something going from a circular shape on one end to a rectangular shape on the other, and it automatically figures out the transitions, and it's cool stuff. You can bevel edges. I mean, you've been playing with it.
Yeah.
But,
no, it's amazing.
It's fun to just goon around in.
It is. The day I learned how to offset a plane, I was like, holy fuck. And it was just like finding a room in your house you didn't know was there, and it's full of Twinkies. It's like, fuck, this is awesome. And they're in date.
That was my feeling exactly.
No, it's amazing. I'm like, holy shit, I can draft from here, and and then I know how to make them to separate objects and recombine them, and then delete that plane if I don't want them, and it just opened up all these things. And I think that's the thing about CAD, and it's teaching me a lot, is that it does all the things you've always been doing anyway. If you're the sort of person that's been making things, it's just you have to call them what they're called now. You have to learn the vocabulary, like what a draft is, what a fillet is, what an offset plane is. Once you know those things, they're not mysterious, because they're the sorts of things you've been doing to have a name, because you didn't need to designate an operation before doing it. You would just move the tool slightly to make it undercut, whereas now you have to call it a draft or whatever. So it's like, now and slowly I kind of learn that. So I think that's the thing and it's encouraging me for things like ZBrush as well, in that you realise it's just a vocabulary, and once you realise that the words are just the names of things that you've already been doing, it's kind of like, okay, it makes a lot of sense. And talking about the ZBrush thing, have you seen some of that stuff recently that Chris Costas has done, Theandropus, on Instagram? Fuck, man, he did like this kind of...
yeah.
Well, he's always doing these heads, but they're just amazing. This kind of like, First Nation kind of dude, and with the grey hair. But he'd done it but he always does this thing braids as well, where he did. And I messaged him about it as well. I left a comment, and it was just like, he did like a thing as a block out sculpt, but it had like the centre line down the middle, like it was really clay, and he put it on a stand. He modelled a sculpting stand and a base, and it looked, for all intents and purposes, like an actual sculpt and a table, and he didn't need to do those things. But I was like, it's amazing, because just putting those things in, it kind of subverts what it is, and it takes it back to being a sculpture. And instead of looking at it, isn't it an amazing digital sculpture, people looking at it just thinking, it's a great sculpt. And it's kind of, that's the point, isn't it? It's just a sculpt. It's just a different way of doing it, and and it doesn't stop clay from being interesting. It's just another way of doing it. Like today I was doing stuff on CAD, and I was 3D printing, and I was hand brushing on some silicon, and all of those things felt like the right thing to do for that thing. It wasn't like, I've got to use my hands to brush on silicon. I wish there was a way I could print this. It's like they're all relevant. It's just another thing to learn. It's awesome. So I'm slowly absorbing the notion of digital into my workflow, and I like it, because it's helping me.
It's nice I'm coming back around, because for years I was a visual effects animator, and kind of went the practical route, because I'm a tactile person. I like to be able to touch the stuff I'm working on.
Yeah,
I don't like CGI any less than I ever did, but you couldn't touch it.
Yeah,
now you can.
Yeah, well, that's what 3D printing does. 3D printing just connects. And it doesn't need to be a great 3D printer. I mean, you can get a cheap 3D printer. The point is you can output something physical from your digital, how it is, And it's fun as well, because I'm, playing with After Effects. Like you and I were chatting the other day about After Effects, and I had a thing I was trying to do, and I couldn't do it. And I was sending you screenshots, and you were chipping in and trying stuff out, and you managed to do it. And I was like, that must mean I'm doing da-da-da. And it was really lovely that we were having this conversation about it. And
After Effects is an incredible software. There's almost nothing you can't do with it.
No, it's amazing. But it's one of the things where you don't have to be a digital guy to do it. It can just be something you do for certain things. Like I have an idea, I want to use it for some stuff for the podcast. It doesn't mean I'm going to drop what I'm doing and, set up a workshop in Soho and try and become a digital. I'm not. But it's within everyone's grasp. That's the whole thing. Well, assuming you can get, the program going, it's fine. But I've enjoyed doing it, and then when I sit down and sculpt, I enjoy that too. So I'm excited about it, because I remember being like, you listened to the Steve Wang podcast, a big part of it, wasn't it? It was basically therapy for me, saying, Steve, please make it okay for me to do digital, because I'm scared of it. And it was just like, no, the longer you leave it, the better it gets. Just start doing it, basically, which is, it's taken me a while to sort of break that seal, but I have, and it's nice, and it hasn't stopped me doing practical.
I've got my eye on a digital scanner.
Ooh.
That I don't know when I'll be able to do it, but that's another aspect that I think is really the photogrammetry and digital scanning and 3D printing.
Yeah,
the world is changing, man, and the abilities of a makeup effects person can be anything now.
Yeah. Well, I got to say, this is one of the things that I think Bolton have done incredibly well, is that they incorporate a lot of this stuff into, you have people designing and making and printing. There was a girl that had printed, I think, was it a mask? And there was some chainmail attached to the mask underneath, and the chainmail had been printed as chainmail. It wasn't a series of links that she then reconnected.
Yeah.
It was printed as chainmail. And doing all these kinds of things. And I'll go to another makeup school where they don't even know what Photoshop is. And it's like, you have no idea what your competition is doing. So there are places out there that are teaching them this. And the other thing they do at Bolton is they have a visual effects department. And the guy there, Richard, who's amazing, the head of the department, just, is so generous and will answer your questions so thoroughly and in a way that makes it feel like you can do this. It's just a series of tasks. It's not insurmountable. It's you think it is, but it isn't, because you don't understand how you're approaching it the wrong way. And once it's explained to you, it suddenly becomes something that you can just do. It might not be easy, but it's doable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like those kinds of things. And you're going to get more of that, I think, over time, as people kind of take on the fact that there isn't just digital, there isn't just practical. I think you can do both. And I think when you get practically minded people who are capable of using software, that's a devastating combination. And I would urge anyone to try. Pick up Sculptress. It's free.
It seems to be the way of the future. I know Todd Masters has added digital capabilities to their practical stuff. So a lot of shops, Weta and I think Elizalde's, studio, and they're all capable now of doing not just practical work and animatronics, but truly marvelous digital work as well. And that's when you get the best of both worlds, when people understand both the practical and the digital and can make them work in harmony the way the world should be. Holy crap, there's,
What about animatronics? Can you imagine the world of animatronics?
Anything's possible now, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
you could design...
I've been printing parts for animatronics for a while now. It's amazing.
Well, your Pinocchio mechanism for the nose and all that kind of stuff.
Pinocchio, I did a dragon tail. Then I did all of the support spines for the tail were all 3D printed, so that the cables ran through. Gary Willett is printing all of his servo housings and eye mechanisms and stuff for his animatronics.
Yeah,
it's all 3D printed now.
The other thing is exciting about that is you could print like a low quality PLA version or something, just to check the size and to check the fit before committing it, if you're going to go and get them sintered or cut or something in metal, which may be a service you pay to do, but the fact is you can do a dry run with the same files.
Shapeways does that. They offer printing in metal, so you can do some prototype testing at a PLA and
exactly with the same file. That's the thing. So it's going to be the same. You design it all exactly the same way. You draw it up. You make your low quality PLA version, check it fit. If it doesn't quite work, you can identify the problem, redraw it. You can iron all those kinks before spending the money on the steel parts. And that kind of level of, just like you would a resume, you type it up on Word or whatever, and you print it, you change the font, you do spelling corrections. You don't have to redo the whole thing every time, and it gives a plasticity to the whole process, which is very
it's
exciting.
Only a matter of time before you're able to do 3D printed aluminum parts on your own printer.
Yeah, man.
Or silicone, or printing silicone.
That would be amazing, to print some silicone. That would be very cool.
It'll happen.
Yeah, because you can get those from very flexible filaments, can't you? Like kind of rubber. I've never done it myself, but I might have to try and get some, because that sounds like a fun thing to do. because then you could make like key molds or things with undercuts or
I've done a
flexible
couple
jackets.
of flexible plastic print pieces for an eye mechanism that I still have to finish putting together, but I printed it quite a while ago, and the materials are always improving.
That's great. And you do that in your Lulzbot?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What kind of melting temperature does that have? Same as PLA kind of thing.
It's in the same ballpark, yeah. But the Lulzbot, the Taz they've now got a new version of the Taz that's even better, higher resolution print heads, multiple print heads. So you can be running different materials simultaneously, for both parts and support material.
Huh. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the future belongs to people that can use this stuff. So, got to get involved. Got to do it.
Yep. While we're still young enough.
Yeah. Well, I'm having a great time doing it. Oh my gosh. I went to this room they had there, and they had I think 12 printers in a row. It was quite magical. And they had, I don't know if it's a Creality one, but what's the big one that's like sort of 2 foot square? That massive print, they got one of those. And an X-Carve, I think, as well, which is like a similar mech. It's like a carver, like a CNC router.
Frank Ippolito's got a ton of that stuff now, because he's pretty much, with his thingery, he's gone from doing practical makeup effects to fabricating all kinds of crazy cool shit.
Yeah, he's doing, again, there's someone doing it right, he's, and gone union as well, hasn't he? And he's all taking it very seriously, doing everything properly, and it's magical when people do that, because it gives other people jobs, and that's an interesting. It's one of the things I wanted to chat to a few other shop owners about, like how you go from being a freelancer to a shop owner. It's a completely different kettle of fish, and depending on what kind of stuff you're going to do and who you're going to hire and the kind of shows you're going to work on, it's going to dictate.
And is there enough work to sustain you?
Yes. Well, is there that, and also the kind of work that you're going to generate, and if you go in different things, like he was doing a lot of like computer games related stuff, and stuff that I don't think a lot of people realize it happens. All these giant sculptures and things for game show, for sort of expos and conventions,
that's pretty much Steve Wang's bread and butter these days, is doing these big installations for BlizzCon and collectible markets, which is a huge field.
Yeah, and different kind of work, because there's a certain quality that you have to maintain, because the scrutiny that would get, that you don't get on screen, you don't get the chance to edit it or clean it up in post, do you? So ironically, the digital side of things has really helped make practical things for real life. you can't fix it afterwards, it has to be right from the get-go. So that's really cool. That's kind of come around full circle. Well, I'm enjoying the ride, I have to say, so I'm going to keep on at it. It's awesome.
Yeah,
man.
You and me both.
Well, I guess you wrap that up. I would urge everyone, again, if you want to get in touch, if you want to tell me I'm wrong and moan at me and come at me, bro, and just put me on my place, because I've got a big mouth and I need to sort out, then email us.
And thank you. We have been getting some emails. Recently that I appreciate, that I've been able to respond to, but keep them coming. Keep those cards and letters and requests and questions. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what we can help you learn that you're not finding other places in your research. That's why we do this. We love it, and we get off on seeing people get excited about the stuff that
if you're
excites
listening
us.
to this, after the fact, it won't mean anything, because they just come out sequentially. But apologise for the lengthy delay between the previous one. It has been a rather busy time. There's been lots to keep us distracted. But I am very, very excited about the prospect of doing more of these. I've got a bunch that are recorded I did the 3 interviews at IMATS in London that I've got to put out. One of which was very much about education, a couple of them were actually. So we should put those out next, I think. That will help support this as well.
Great.
But yeah, you can email us at stuartandtodd@gmail.com, and also check us out on our website. Our Facebook page. The website is coming, by the way. I've ordered a bunch.
We have an Instagram page too.
Battles with Bits of Rubber. There we go.
Battles with Bits of Rubber.
Yeah, the web page is slowly coming. The problem with the web page was I thought I was waiting on her and she was waiting on me for some pictures, and then I realised, oh shit, I need to get some more merch because we'd run out of some bits and bobs. So I've got more T-shirts and we've got some cool badges coming, and as soon as they're in and I photographed them and given the pictures to the amazing lady that's making this website happen, then that website will be up and running with the web shop as well. But it's slow burn just because this year's been crazy. I watched Giri Haji, which is a Japanese it's about Japanese gangsters, Yakuza in London and Tokyo and stuff. So there's lots of vicious gangstery things, and that aired on BBC, so it's on iPlayer at the moment, but I think it was a BBC and Netflix co-production, so I think soon it'll be available on Netflix too. So if you're able to see Giri Haji, check it out. It was awesome. I watched it. It's weird, you know, when you watch those shows where you go, oh, I did some stuff on this, I'll watch it, and then you actually get drawn into it, and it's just legitimate. Like, even if I hadn't worked on it, I would have really enjoyed that show. It was awesome.
Well, you did the stuff that you did for it was really cool.
Thank you, man. That was very cool.
And I'm not gonna do spoilers, but there's some pretty cool Stewart shit in there.
Thank you. That sounds gross. Although ironically it was gross because there's some, fingers getting chopped off. It's horrible. But anyway, yes, thank you very much. So yeah, get in touch. We do like to hear from you, and we appreciate it. And the best thing you can do if you like this is to mention it to somebody that you know. If you know just one person, if everyone that listened to this podcast was to share it with one other person, we would double our listenership. And not that I'm after numbers particularly, but I'm really proud of the amount of downloads we've been getting. It's been awesome. But I appreciate, because we haven't done it, big chunks of time have been going through, it hasn't been consistent. But things have eased off a bit now as we come close to Christmas, so I'm going to be much more on it.
We have a magazine deadline coming up close to Christmas, so we got to
get something on that.
Talk about that.
Yes, sir. We'll get on that too, because that last magazine article has come out looking great. I've still got my pack of foam ears right here.
Nice.
Which is cool. And I'm going to put these on. I didn't use them over Halloween, but I will definitely be using them soon. But I'm really excited and really happy to put those on.
Great.
Yay, they're awesome.
Well, Lisa, in addition to sending my copies of the magazine over, Lisa's sending me a couple of the Prosthetic Events hoodies.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I haven't got one of those. Maybe I'll pick one up at the show.
Yeah, you should. I can't wait to get them. They look cool, and I'm going to be styling, man.
Awesome. Well, if you are coming to the event, I think it's the 23rd of November. It's the Saturday. It's like the third Saturday in Coventry. If you're able to come and say hello and get in touch. It's weird, we get a lot of questions, or I see a lot of questions, and I end up answering them like one-on-ones, like some slight direct messages, and I forget to turn them into bloody episodes because I don't know, it can get resolved within a few messages or something, but I need to reorganise all that. But we've got a bunch of episodes lined up, so I will crank on with these. Crank on? Is that even a word? Crack on.
It is now.
It is now. Crack on sounds weird. Crack off sounds worse. But get on with those episodes because they need to be done. But yes, I'm between shows at the moment. I haven't got anything significant show-wise this side of Christmas, which I'm really happy about. Another big teaching gig in January, so I'm going to enjoy the calm and get on with these with these podcasts and get more out.
I just finished a few projects, and I've got one more good one that'll bring me up to just before Christmas, which is nice to have a little bit of calm time to get back to my purge mode of I think I'm going to hire a roll-off dumpster and just start throwing shit away. Donna has a show that opens tonight, and it's one she tracked, so she'll have some free time so we can both attack closets and the garage and start getting rid of some crap.
Amazing.
Got some cool stuff. If anybody, I'm getting rid of a ton of molds and lots of weird shit.
Well,
so if anybody wants to come help us throw stuff away, you're welcome to keep things that we don't want anymore.
There we go. You can have a big yard sale.
Oh man, if it was any other time, but coming on winter, the weather's gonna start getting dicey.
Yeah,
we could have one of the most unusual yard sales of all time.
Yeah, you still got those birds of prey that were living around your neighborhood? Do you remember the hawks?
Yeah.
Were they, or are they still going strong?
I haven't seen them. I heard one yesterday. I'm not sure where they have gone to for their hunting grounds, but they're still around.
Yeah.
I haven't been, to be honest, I've been working inside a lot, so I haven't been spending a lot of time outside. We were into single digit temperatures last week,
wow.
So not a lot of outdoor time. The sun is so low that the backyard's not gonna see direct sunlight till May of next year. So there's still several inches of snow on the deck. The pond gets direct sunlight, so that's cool. But the up and down temperatures. I mean, we had a 60-degree temperature shift yesterday.
Mm-hmm. That's quite significant.
It's life in Colorado.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to clearing out and getting some space back in the house and the shop and the garage and make room for more stuff.
Yeah, it'll feel fantastic once you've done that. You'll feel free.
Yeah.
You'll be like running around with no shorts on. It'll be awesome.
Which is what I'm doing now.
Oh, God. This is why we mustn't have cameras on. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to get going. I need to drink more wine, and I'm going to relax. It's now Friday evening. I'm probably going to get this done tomorrow or the day after and get it out this weekend.
All right, so thank you all for listening, and we hope you will continue to listen, and we'll see you all soon.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot. Cheers, Todd.
Cheers, Stuart.
Take care, man.
Okay.
Bye.